And to continue our discussion of, are people moving around from downtown? Are they for downtown or against downtown? There's some kind of, I guess, like a counter argument, because Cushman and Wakefield says cities are cool again. Young people are leading a movement back into cities, and companies are following suit. We all know that cities were empty practically during the pandemic. There were some great, when we had our offices that were in the downtown of Indianapolis, and I had some like great walks downtown. Not a single person around. I was just looking around. And it was deserted, and that was really cool.
Our office was about 6 blocks north of the Five Guys, and I remember I'd walk down there for lunch every once in a while, and Thursdays you'd see 2 people.
Yeah, exactly. It was to me it was wonderful, but some people need that crowd, and it is becoming more vibrant, I would say. Yeah. So they're saying that young residents are driving the return, and they're saying, for example, the 15 to 29-year-old population in Manhattan grew by 9%, and the 1/5 of young home buyers in 2024 bought in the central city. I'm not sure if this trend is as robust as we saw in the Harvard Joint Center for Housing Studies, but they are reporting how the gap between CBD, central business, the downtown multifamily occupancy has shrunk, and now actually downtown apartments are fuller than suburban apartments. I don't know if that's real or not.
I would argue that most of the development has been in the suburban, and so the supply glut that you're talking about,
that makes sense.
I would say, just because what I see on the acquisition side of the CBD stuff, no one's excited about it.
Yeah.
And no one feels good that even if you are at 93 to 95%, no one feels good that you're keeping it that way.
Yeah. Well, what if I told you that that you could have play spaces in your downtowns? Because there's an optimal amount of play real estate that you need. And this is what Cushman and Wakefield has called play real estate, or play spaces, which are retail, hotel, sports, entertainment, museums, these things that are fun. I like it. Play spaces, a play place is what McDonald's has. A play space is an important part of urban real estate. And however, it only accounts for 12 to 15% of urban real estate right now. Would like more.
And I think I'm gonna use an example here in Indianapolis. Mm-hmm. Again, we are a small microcosm of the entire country. Maybe we're an outlier, but
we're a perfect example.
I see this, but it's not happening in downtown Indy.
I think I know where you're going. Yeah.
I live on the northeast side. Mm-hmm. We looked hard at buying Market Fisher's District. I've gone there many times. I shop at the Kroger right there. There is a 1 mile stretch of road where Cumberland, right there on 116th Street, there is a giant Kroger.
Yeah.
There is a bunch of small strip retail with food, with all the things you could want. Market Fisher's District, 266 unit apartment complex on top, on Podium, with retail, and there's like Kincaid's Meat Market. There's restaurants all down there. There's restaurant outflows. There's a fitness center. There's a massage studio all right there. Across the street, there's a Top Golf. Right across the street there's Portillo's, there's IKEA. Half mile south, and in a neighborhood right south of it is the new Fisher's Event Center. That's the new hockey arena, concert venue, all going up there. There's Slate at Fisher's District that just got developed there and just got sold about a week ago. Right across 69 there's a Target. There are all sorts of jobs of people having, where there's like a construction company. Meyer Nadrum has their thing there. You've got like escape room, all of these things kind of there that go to the downtown Fishers.
Just downtown feel.
There's the library, there's all that, but it's not in a high density central business district.
Yeah.
It's a, as you said, a play space made in a suburban area, and Carmel is the same. Like I don't live in Carmel.
I was just going to note the government involvement is interesting too. If they're building things like a stadium, that there's probably a will from the government from that local Fishers City Council or whatever to create that space. And I think Carmel's doing that as well.
Yeah, and so I say, like, yes, Cushman Wakefield, yes, do we want these? Because that was the hard part about being in the suburbs or living further out. Is it's 20 minutes to go somewhere that you want to go. You don't want that. But I think
it's a compromise that you don't want to make.
I think these suburbs are realizing that they need those opportunities for people there to stay, to keep people from doing it. So I think these suburbs are creating these mini central business districts. You're never going to say it's a central business district because you're never going to have the concentration of people working there and the types of jobs that need to be there. But you're creating those play stations, and there are hotels with all of those. There's definitely apartments there, and I think they range from young professionals, of people that went to high school, college in that area and wanted to live by mom and dad, but want a nice place. I see a lot of that stuff kind of going there. There's bars, there's restaurants, there's all those things to do, but it's not downtown. It's not central business district. It's entertainment corridor.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I also think another perhaps unstated aspect that could be driving this and driving the inflow of population that also supports the money that I was saying, there's money there, is school districts. So let's say, Fisher's rich place, rich property taxes, rich schools. Now people want to move in there because they want to get their kids into a nice school. I think that's happening a lot in Carmel. I think it's happening in Fisher's. People are that's a really important decision for families to make. And if talking about long-term demographic trends, there's an increase. All these millennials are moving. That's I think what is driving the movement into suburbia is a demographic trend of aging millennials. They're getting their house, they're getting their car, they're getting their 1 or 2 kids, they're getting their yard, whatever. They're getting their vegetable garden maybe. But they are, they're moving out and they're moving to Fishers. And if they can, they do that. And the home values are high there. And I think that feeds into a new, these fancy new schools. Now everyone, and that kind of creates that momentum. I think it's really interesting, and I do think that there is like I said, this government will, but I also wonder how much of this is momentum just on itself, where it's happening, and you blink your eyes and you.
I think it's happening because there's demand. Like I said, I live kind of on the northeast side of the Indianapolis Fishers area. Outside of when we drive to our office, I can't remember. I think it's been 1.5, 2 years since my wife and I have come down to downtown Indianapolis for a date.
Yeah.
Like it just doesn't happen, and it's.
Well, you know what we would say here down in the downtown, urban downtown.
It's 25 minutes away. There's great restaurants, great foods, a lot of places you want to eat, but I'd much rather drive 10, 15 minutes to Fishers and just know that I'm going to be home.
Now, that's true. They have a thing about commuting time, and they use it by the walking distance in Manhattan.
And we are definitely not a walking.
No, we're driving. But I think that a long commute, and I've been through this. It's an hour commute. If you're doing an hour in the morning, and that it takes something from you. And there's some people that do it. Some people it's their me time. They listen to a podcast and they go. But
listen to us.
They listen to us. This is what we're here for. But. There are situations where it has a cumulative effect. Where it's like I can't do this every day. But that being said, I think that that this creating that the destination in of itself in Fishers or in Carmel or in Zionsville, that's totally happening, and I think it is driven by demand and there's money there. People will buy it, so you'll be able to open a nice restaurant now that there are the people there.
It's really hard to want to go downtown to St. Elmo's Steakhouse, like. Probably the best known restaurant in Indianapolis when I was in high school living up in Lafayette, that was the treat, driving from Lafayette down to Indianapolis to go take to St. Elmo's. It's really hard to want to go on a date there when I have 1933 Lounge and HG Tavern that have almost the exact same menu that they're developing all over the city. You got Harry and Izzy's up on the north side, and that restaurant group, you have that kind of trademark here downtown, but now that same restaurant with that same menu is accessible in so many other places. So why would I drive downtown? Why would I pay for parking? Why would I do for all of those things if I can get it 10 minutes away?
And multifamily developers are following it, but the apartments are filling up, and like I say, it's a no-brainer probably for St. Elmo's to move in there because they know that the money is there and they know that the people are there and these places are growing. I think it is really interesting to see this development and see how vibrant the suburbs are. But it's a little disappointing that we can't replicate this in the downtown. So I do think this is a microcosm. We see it in this. We see it in the chart from Joint Center Housing Studies. People are moving away from the urban core. Is there anything that can be done to bring them back, or is this purely a function of an aging population that prefers a yard, has a family, doesn't want to live in an apartment?
I think I will speak for myself personally. There is something about like having kids, wanting a yard, stuff like that, and there are areas where there are parks where you can do a supplement like. yes, I have a yard, but like if I want to take my kids to play, like I drive to the playground a mile away, and that's where they go. That's where they do all
Yeah.
those things. And so that's easily available in the city. But I think the biggest thing in the city is two factors, specifically Indianapolis. I'm not going to speak for any other place. There's two things. One is traffic, and the second is public transportation.
Yeah. I would say 3 schools. There are fewer schools.
Yes, there's few options for schools, and so would I want to live in a condo? Would I want to live in something like that? Like if I had a park, and I know there are some parks in Indy, and so we've been to those, so that's not a big issue. But I went to lunch, and our office to 5 minutes away was like a 15-minute drive just to get over there because I had to find a place to park. I had to go down all the one ways, and so I couldn't just hop on the subway like you can in other places and go and be places easily, and then we can't walk outside because half the year here it's 40 degrees or colder. I don't want to walk a mile in 40 degrees.
Yeah.
And even if you did, like our sidewalks aren't set up to be able to easily do that. I mean, because we had lunch down by Cityway, they're kind of south of what is it now, Gainbridge Fieldhouse.
Yeah.
And so there were actually really nice sidewalks. There were a bunch of restaurants. It was like, oh, this is next to the Lilly campus. Like this is actually really walkable. And then there's that giant bridge with the train tracks right there that go right next to the stadium.
Yeah.
And it's like there's this like line of demarcation of like, well, I'm not walking north up to Georgia Street now.
Yeah.
And so I feel like there's just kind of these barriers specifically in Indianapolis that make it not as walkable, not as easy to traverse. And so because of that, I wouldn't want to live downtown.
Yeah. That's super interesting. And I wonder, that it does give the smaller communities, these suburb communities, a little more control. They know where it can go, and they can kind of create or shape the downtown feel to promote pedestrians and promote the kind of look that they want. But yeah, I don't want to count downtown out either, because I think if housing becomes cheap, people will move in there. But the narrative, I think, largely is a movement into the suburbs, and that's not changing too much.